Hi everyone, I'm Courtney, and I wanted to take a quick minute to explain something that I have thought about a lot and researched a lot, and that is the place that white women play in this conversation about racial justice. And from my research and my understanding, white women play a really interesting and critical role in this conversation. And it's a role that we often don't understand very well, and we get wrong quite a bit. And so I thought I would try to be helpful and explain exactly what our place is in the system and how we can leverage that to make positive change. So in order to explain this in a clear, helpful way, I have stole my children's Legos and built this model to help us understand social hierarchy and our place within the system so that we can help dismantle it. Please forgive the mixed colors. I'm just terrible at Legos. So this is the best I could do. So this is our social hierarchy as it currently stands in America and in most places in the world. But for this conversation, I'm just focused on American systems. So this is our social hierarchy. At the top, the roof here that is sitting on top of everyone, being propped up on everyone else, is the white, cisgender, straight, able-bodied patriarchy. These are systems that give men more power than women, particularly white men, who are in the majority in all the ways. So that is the roof. And that sits on top of everyone else. And they benefit by sitting on top of everyone else. They benefit from that oppression of being propped up on all these other people. In the middle here, you'll see these 4 columns. And these 4 columns, you notice they are underneath the patriarchy, but they're also propping it up, and they're also on top of the foundation, right? And these pillars are white women. And the foundation at the bottom is people of color, immigrants, gay people, and all of these things interact in a really nuanced way. And that's not, this conversation is a very 30,000 foot view. So this is people who are not in the majority, but all people of color. And I want to point out that Black women are, generally speaking, at the very bottom of our social hierarchy as it currently stands. And so that's kind of our system, how it works. And white women play this really interesting role where they are victims of the patriarchy. We see that in the gender pay gap and in the imbalance of unpaid labor at home and things like that. Lots of different things that I could get into, but I'm not going to right now. So there is oppression there, but also they prop up the white patriarchy, and they do that by continuing the oppression down and being complicit in the oppression of people of color and marginalized people at the bottom. And essentially, by participating and being complicit in that kind of oppression, white women receive a certain amount of protection from the white patriarchy. You see that in the story of Amy Cooper calling the cops in Central Park a few weeks ago on that nice man who was bird watching. And so we receive protections from the patriarchy if we work with them, essentially, prop up their system by continuing the oppression down to the people on the bottom. And that is why movements like feminism, which has for decades left out women of color, it's essentially what white feminism does is it takes the roof off, right? And like kind of sets it over here. But the oppression still exists. Like it doesn't actually help the people at the bottom. It helps white women, it helps us, but it doesn't help the people down here. In order to find actual justice and equality, we have to dismantle the whole system, right? So we have to take the roof off, and then we actually have to get off and give up our place of privilege and stop being complicit in the system. And then if we dismantle the system like this, we have the potential, at least, of finding some kind of justice and creating some kind of more just system altogether. However, you'll notice that as the system is, dismantling that system comes down to white people, okay? Because we're the only ones with access and the power to do that. The problem is that we have been waiting forever for these people to just get off, to just stop, right? That seems unlikely to happen at this point. So where that leaves us is it leaves us with the only other people with access to this top, with the power to dismantle it, is the white women. It comes down to us being willing to dismantle the system that both protects us and makes us complicit to the oppression of others, right? It comes down to us being willing to do that. The problem is we're really, really confused, and we like our position of being protected. And a lot of times we don't realize that this is how the system works, which is why I'm making this video. The people who do understand how this system works are the people down here. The women of color, they see this really clearly. And that's why we need to listen to them and learn from them and listen to them about how this system works so that we can leverage our power to dismantle it. And it will cost us something. It absolutely will, because while it won't cost us as much as it would cost the men up here to, like, they're gonna have to give up a lot of things when they get off, right? It's like really far down for them. It's going to cost us something too, but it's also going to free us from the oppression that we experience. And that's where Lila Watts says that our liberation is bound up together, right? So the only way that we're actually going to be free from the system is to dismantle it and free ourselves, while also allowing the people down here to free themselves from the system by dismantling it altogether. So that's how the system works. And I just wanted to explain that because I feel like white women, we don't see how the system works. We don't see how we benefit from it, and we don't see how we're complicit in it oftentimes. But we are. That's the truth of the matter. So I hope that in this moment, we can see this system and we can reach up and dismantle it and not lose the momentum and not become concerned with only ourselves right now and continue to make the same mistakes that we've made before, but to see this as a systemic dismantling that benefits everyone across the board, and it even benefits the people in power up here, because they're causing all kinds of violence and oppression, and that hurts them as well. And so by freeing us all together from both the oppression that we're causing and the oppression that we're experiencing, we can move towards justice. So anyways, I hope that was helpful to understand our place in the system and therefore understand our responsibility in dismantling it. Again, like I said, this was a very 30,000 foot view idea that I presented. There's a lot of nuance in here, and there's a lot of particulars that I did not discuss, and I understand that. So I want to make that clear. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to discuss this further and answer any questions you have. But I just wanted to explain that, and I hope that it is helpful. Okay, keep going. Don't stop now. We can make change.